We'll call the meeting to order.
This is part of how democracy works at the local level, listening to the perspectives of subject matter experts, city residents, City Hall. This video is going to provide you with an overview of how the City of Nixa conducts city council meetings. We encourage everyone to attend and participate in city council meetings. This is part of how democracy works at the local level, listening to the perspectives of subject matter experts, city residents, and other community members helps our elected leaders make more informed decisions. Before we start the meeting, let's review some of Council's rules of order. These rules help us make sure our meetings are orderly and efficient, while protecting the ability of everyone to have an opportunity to speak. Please be respectful of the person speaking and hold your own comments until it is your turn to speak. Presenters are invited by the Council to provide information during the meeting to the Council. These are informational presentations only, and nothing will be voted on at the time of the presentation. Presenters are not time limited. There are 2 times when all other visitors will be able to speak to Council. The first is during the visitors section of the agenda, and the second is during any public hearing regarding an agenda item. During the visitors section, anyone may speak to Council about any topic, whereas the public hearings regarding specific agenda items allow you to make comments for Council to consider before they make a decision on that topic. Whether you wish to speak during any public hearing or the visitors section, the following rules of order will apply. 1. Only one person should speak at a time. Be respectful of the person speaking and wait to speak until it is your turn. 2. Anyone speaking must do so from the podium and speak into the microphone. 3. You must first state your name and provide your address in writing to the city clerk before beginning your comments. 4. All speakers will be given 5 minutes to make their comments to the Council. The mayor or Council may have additional questions for speakers after this 5-minute period. 5. All comments should be addressed to the mayor and Council. 6. If you have questions about existing city processes, programs, or policies, or if you need assistance from staff on any issue, please contact City Hall during normal business hours and we'll be happy to assist you or answer any questions you may have at that time. The public hearing is designed to provide the public an opportunity to provide testimony and information to the mayor and council regarding the decisions they may be considering. Keep in mind this meeting will be recorded and live streamed with video and audio. Therefore, all comments relevant to this meeting must be spoken into a microphone, otherwise video viewers will not be able to hear you. In the case of a closed session or technical difficulties, some meetings or portions of meetings may not actually be recorded or streamed. The use of cell phones during council meetings is discouraged, so please silence all devices now. Thank you for watching, and thank you for engaging with the City of Nixa. The meeting will begin shortly.
Here.
Aaron Peterson,
Here.
Darlene Graham, Matt Ogden.
Here. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will move on to the visitor section. We have any visitors this evening?
Ron Sanders.
Lovely.
I think I missed one, so decided to make it here. My name's Ron
You don't
Sanders.
get twice your time, Ron.
What's that?
I said you don't get twice your time. You only get the one time.
Doggone it. All right. My name's Ron Sanders, and I'd like to talk about relationships and responsibilities and stuff like that tonight. In the business world, businesses can be cutthroat. In the world of business, everybody knows that it's up to the people running the business to take as many advantages as possible in the market and make money. enrich themselves, enrich their companies, make their companies stronger through taking as many advantages as possible through negotiations, through contracts, and through business dealings. And in the course of business, governments end up doing business with businesses. And on occasion, we start to see businesses try to take advantage of governments. It happens. We see it happening at various levels in our country, that people in government positions start shaking hands with the businesses, start doing business with the businesses, and forget about protecting the citizens and being responsible with the money that the citizens give them. And that's what I wanted to talk about tonight. Businesses are selfish. People that run businesses, they are supposed to be selfish. As a matter of fact, I do believe that one of the due diligences for public corporations is that they have to look out for the best interest of their corporations. There are some responsibilities in there that can get people in trouble. Of course, there are ethical boundaries and everything that they should be following. But when we start to see businesses, having very close and very cozy relationships with people in government, we start to see problems. I'm not saying that you guys are doing that. If I was going to say that, I would just say it. It is up to you all, though, to make sure that that line is not crossed. And I just wanted to bring it up tonight because, well, sometimes we need to be reminded. It is your responsibility to make sure that you take care of the citizens and take care of all the money that's given to you by the citizens, and be as responsible as possible through contracts, through negotiations, and through being frugal with the money that needs to be spent. And that's let me try to talk here. That's what's on a lot of people's minds. That's what a lot of people are talking about. And I hope that everybody here is blessed with that idea, and I hope that everybody goes forth in every aspect of government protecting us from the businesses that may try to take advantage of our government. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders. All right, we will close the visitor section and move on to our first reading of ordinances.
First reading Council Bill number 2023-14, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa approving the preliminary plat of the Willowbrook subdivision, generally located along the 700 block of South Elegant Drive, and authorizing certain city officials to take certain actions upon the filing of a final plat.
Drew, if you could pull up the slideshow ahead. Mayor, Council, good evening. This is for the preliminary plat of Willowbrook subdivision. This is located along the 700 block of South Elegant Drive. Thank you, Drew. This will look very familiar to you as it was rezoned to the R4 zoning district in January of this year. The preliminary plat shows a total of 47 buildable residential lots plus 2 common area lots that will be dedicated to a homeowners association. This is the general area which this preliminary plat is in reference to, and this is the preliminary plat. Staff has reviewed this preliminary plat, and every lot conforms to Nixa City Code standards. They are presenting 50 feet of right-of-way, which is the right-of-way width needed for every local road classification. The road is being presented as a 27-foot paved surface back of curb to back of curb, which will allow for parking on one side of the street. There will be sidewalk throughout this subdivision on the water line side. This subdivision will also be served by all Nixa utilities. It has 2 points of ingress-egress. They are both located on the south side, one off of Elegant and then the other off of, I believe that is South Ridge Street. So staff has reviewed this. There will be a requirement for a traffic impact study at time of development where the property or where the access point on the South Elegant connects, due to South Elegant being a secondary arterial. That will determine any off-site improvements that will be needed at time of construction. Staff has reviewed, and it is in conformance with Nixa City Code in relation to subdivision standards for an R4 zoning district. Staff does recommend approval. This was read at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting held Monday. Nobody approached the commission to voice any concerns. The P&Z commissioners did have an internal discussion where they had some concerns with both of the access point being on the southern half of the subdivision. But again, our regulations just require two. It doesn't state whether it has to be on opposite ends of the development. With all things considered, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted 4-1 to recommend approval to City Council. If you have any questions, I'm available.
When the neighbors in that area came to speak on this one, weren't there concerns about the entrance being down at the bottom of the hill? Like closer to Diamond? Isn't that where, you may know this better, wasn't that kind of where their concerns were, was that it was going to come out down
That's
there?
actually at the top of the hill.
Oh, oops.
Yeah.
So they were talking about being so close to this area, one right here, and so it's not gonna be there. It's gonna be.
So
right
the entrances down there actually solves that issue?
Yeah, so the little
Okay.
right-of-way bump out you see at the north of the subdivision, that is too close to Diamond Avenue, which is the next road to the north. We have a code regulation that states it has to be on a secondary arterial or an arterial level street. Access points for roads on the same side have to be at least 1,000 feet separated. That would 1,000 feet from, oh, thank you, green dot. Sorry, I'm like a cat, I got distracted. So 1,000 feet from East Diamond would put it roughly in the middle of the bend of Elegant Drive between the two access points that are on the east side of Elegant. So we also do require that roadways do align with other roadways, so that's why they have chosen the south bump out in the right-of-way as their access point off South Elegant.
What will they do with that little half drive that's already there? I mean, could that be like parking for that common area, or is it going to have to be curbed?
It depends on what the developer wishes to do with that property. Right now, it's just listed as common area. I do not know if they have plans for it.
Okay.
It can be used for a drive to it, but it can't be used for a street to access.
Okay. And then what was the reason for the one vote against this?
Because both access points were in the southern
That was the
portion.
whole thing, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the concept of the two access points is so that EMS and fire can access all of the lots. If there's a fire on that one section in between, the entire back end has no way to get out.
Which is an issue in a lot of subdivisions across the area, not just Nixa.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much, Scott. We will open up the public hearing. If you would like to speak to this item. And we will close the public hearing. Any further discussion? Questions? Nope. Move on to the next item.
First reading Council Bill number 2023-15, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa annexing approximately 2.23 acres of real property generally located at the northwest corner of the intersection of South Gregg Road and West Glen Oaks Drive, zoning said property to the R1 zoning district and amending Chapter 2, Article 2, Section 2-28 of the Nixa City Code.
Mayor, Council, good evening. This is for the annexation of, lots 1 through 4, the Spence edition of the Glen Oaks subdivision, or Glen Oaks Estates subdivision, which was originally platted in the county in 1987. It is approximately 2.23 acres of property. The zoning requested is R1 single family. This is the general location. It is along South Gregg Road. The city limits does run along the east, south, and west portion of these lots. This is a boundary survey for annexation purposes. You'll see the 4 lots on the north side of Glen Oaks Drive. The colorful squiggly lines that you see, the solid red line in the middle outlines the rim of a sinkhole that was evaluated late last year. The blue line in the middle shows the 100-year flood elevation or flood stage level of the stormwater that's as high as it should get inside that sinkhole. And then the dashed line on the outside represents a vegetative buffer that the registered geologist is suggesting. The other thing to note on here is that West Glen Oaks Drive is only 30 feet of right-of-way. As previously mentioned, we do require 50 feet for local roads. With this being an annexation, we are going to require 10 additional feet on the north side of Glen Oaks Drive to comply with, or at least have half compliance with the local road standards if and when we ever needed to expand the road. The property has or will be served by Nixa Water Service, as there is a water main on the south side of Glen Oaks Drive. There is a sewer main that runs along the east side of South Gregg Road. There will be some challenges to get the sewer to it due to the fact that the property does slope down from South Gregg down into the sinkhole, so they will have to install some type of grinder pump or lift station to get the sewer up out of the lower elevation. Since there are multiple options, we are not requiring a specific one. It's just whenever we get to that point, we will review what they have presented. Make sure I'm not missing anything. There was a structure on Lot 4 that was demolished last year by the current property owners. The property owners do intend to provide a minor subdivision. You'll notice that Lot 1 is basically unbuildable. They do intend to come back with a minor subdivision to move some lot lines, which will then create the opportunity to tie that sinkhole area to a buildable portion of a lot. So it won't forever just be a sinkhole lot. This agenda item had a public hearing at the Monday night's Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. A few property owners voiced concerns about floodwaters in the sinkhole. They also expressed concerns about property values if they were to shrink the lots down from their size that they are now, which each lot is roughly a half acre. Every lot in the Glen Oaks subdivision appears to be a half acre, so they expressed some concerns if they were to reduce lot sizes that it could affect their property values. They also expressed concerns about widening the road. There was individuals both on the north side of Glen Oaks Drive and on the south side that said the road needed to be expanded, but that they were not willing to provide us any right-of-way for it. It's just one of those things. The Planning and Zoning Commission did unanimously vote for approval, to recommend approval to City Council. Staff does recommend approval that the property is compact and contiguous to current city limits. If you have any questions, I am available.
Any questions? Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
And we will open up the public hearing on this item. And we will close the public hearing. Any other discussion or questions? Nope. All right. Move on to second readings.
Second reading Council Bill number 2023-07, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa amending sections 101-102, 117-101, and 117-99 of the Nixa City Code to accommodate the state's approval of adult use marijuana.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. I have prepared a PowerPoint on this, so I'll give Drew a second to pull that up. It'll look familiar to some of you since this has been before the council before. So we're talking about Council Bill 2023-07, which, as the title indicates, is an ordinance that would authorize or modify the city's current zoning regulations to accommodate adult use marijuana. So just a little bit of background on this. Constitutional Amendment 3 was approved by the voters of the state of Missouri on November 8th. That amendment authorized the legal consumption of marijuana by those 21 years of age or older. Those legal sales were authorized to begin in the state after February 6, 2023. So the bill that's offered tonight was first read at the February 13th meeting, second read and postponed at the February 27th meeting, and is now before the council for potential final passage. And what the bill is trying to do is, with the implementation of Amendment 3, there are new categories of potential land uses that can occur within the state that our code doesn't have language to address. So this bill would add the language from Amendment 3 into the city's zoning regulations so that we could zone and regulate where these would be located. This is a similar approach that was undertaken by the city when medical marijuana was authorized by constitutional amendment a few years ago. And so just a quick summary, the bill is making 3 types of modifications to the code. First, we're proposing to modify section 101-2, which would make some changes to the city's zoning ordinance definition section to put these new land uses in the code, also modify some definitions in the constitutional amendment related to medical marijuana. Second, we're going to propose to make some changes, some regulatory changes. That's going to be in section 117-101, which is the city's current medical marijuana use regulation ordinance. The changes there are just broadening the scope to apply to what's called comprehensive marijuana facilities, which is they can do both medical and adult use. And then third and finally, modifying the city's table of approved uses, which is located at section 117-99, which would put these in zoning districts, which is the issue that they're currently not in a zoning district. And so going over some of the definitional changes, as I've mentioned, new classifications were added to the state's constitution. I've listed a few of them up there, and our code doesn't have definitions for that. So this portion of the ordinance would adopt the definitions utilized in Amendment 3 into our code so that our code has language to address or identify what these are. That'll be based on what the state has, or the voters have already approved in the constitutional amendment. And as I mentioned, there were some tweaks to the medical marijuana terms in Amendment 3, and those are reflected in the proposed ordinance as well. Secondly, the regulatory changes. We're modifying the section that was originally adopted by the City Council to regulate medical marijuana, and as I said, we're just broadening that scope to apply to medical uses. We are also modifying the separation requirement between marijuana uses, schools, daycares, and churches to 1,000 feet, and we are adopting the modified method that the state uses to measure the 1,000-foot distance, which is known as the lawfully traveled by foot standard. And finally, the zoning district changes. What we're doing is these new comprehensive uses have equivalent medical uses that are already allowed in the code. So what we have done is taken those new comprehensive uses and placed them with their equivalent medical uses within the code. And then the last slide I have, we've had some questions from council on the method to ban these if we wanted to do that. And so I've lifted some language from the state constitution on this just to highlight the process if there's interest in pursuing that. And so the Constitution is fairly clear on that in order to do this, you have to have a public vote. We have to take it to the ballot. And that can only occur in presidential election years. So the earliest that the city would be able to engage in that would be 2024. There's also a method for a citizen petition process to occur where if at least 5% of qualified voters, which is determined on the basis of the number of votes cast for governor at the last election, were to file a petition, they can force this to be placed on the ballot. And the ballot form I provided, it has to state that the vote is to ban all non-medical micro-business dispensary facilities and comprehensive marijuana dispensary facilities from being located within the city of Nixa. And so I put that there just to highlight that it would not ban the consumption. It would just ban the sale of these within the city limits. And just to close out, under the constitutional requirement, it would require a 60% approval to get something like that approved. So I mentioned that because there were some questions about that at the last meeting, and I wanted to provide that information for the council. But with that, staff recommends approval of the ordinance as currently drafted. I'm happy to answer any questions that the council may have about this issue at this time.
So I have some questions. One, I apologize for missing the last meeting. What is because one conversation that we've had a lot since then is the distance, the 1,000 feet, because I know there's some areas in Missouri that are looking at just pretty much zoning it out of the city, and I personally have no intentions on going that route. What is the current required distance for a liquor store? Or
Under statute, it's 100 feet.
100?
Yeah.
Okay.
And a few cities that I've talked to about this, they're taking that approach, that they're just modeling it after their, whatever their liquor code standard is.
Okay. Because I know that, I mean, most of these facilities are, I would say that security is even tighter than what would be at a liquor store or gas station, and it's not like someone's going to walk out of a daycare and just wander into one of these facilities, so I'm not really concerned about that. So that's kind of what that we were wanting to look at, is amending the 1,000 feet to something a little lower. And I don't know if everyone wants to mirror it with the liquor standards, or...
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up here in a little bit, but you went ahead and brought that up now. So I was thinking, either looking at what it was for the liquor stores. I thought the number I was told was 200 feet. So I was definitely thinking that the 1,000 feet seemed a little extreme, but looking at lowering it to a more reasonable number, whether that be exactly what liquor is or a little more than what liquor is.
Is the 1,000's the maximum?
Yeah,
correct? The maximum
authorized
allowed
under the
within
Constitution.
within the Constitution, okay. So it
Right.
can be anything less than 1,000.
Do you know what the city code is for the liquor right now? Is it the 100 feet, or
So
can we have
right
something
now,
different?
we don't have a code provision on that with the separation requirement. It's dictated by statute. Another item on the agenda this evening would adopt that as a 100-foot requirement in the code that would authorize staff to be able to grant those liquor licenses if there is a proximity issue. So right now, there isn't a separation requirement. It's dictated by state statute, which requires a meeting of the council in order to grant that consent.
Gotcha.
So there is, but there isn't.
Right.
And I don't recall, what is our current requirement for the medical marijuana sales?
So it changes. It's, I can pull that for you. It changes depending on the use. So if it's a elementary or secondary school, it's 500 feet, or no, it's, well, hold on. Elementary or secondary school, it's 500 feet from any licensed childcare facility or 250 feet of any church. I think it's 1,000, but from any elementary school or secondary school, sorry. So it fluctuates, and one of the things we wanted to do with this amendment from a staff perspective was have it be consistent, so that we're enforcing one standard, and the public, the people trying to comply with these requirements would be held to one standard that wouldn't change depending on what's around them.
And so if the facilities are selling both, the comprehensive and the medical, then whatever we do tonight would supersede what's in place?
Yeah, so one of the proposed changes in the ordinance before you is to modify that section on medical to have it apply to all marijuana uses. That would be everything under the umbrella that Amendment 3 authorizes. That's subject to the separation requirement. So the amendment currently, or the way that the bill is currently drafted in front of you this evening, it would apply that 1,000 to all uses. Does that make sense?
But it would be less than the current 1,000 because of the definition they use for distance that we used as the crow flies, I think, or something similar. We used it the closest possible way you could measure, where this uses the way you could
Lawfully
travel,
traveled by
lawfully
foot.
travel. So it was across the street, but the street has no crosswalk, and you'd have to go all the way down to the corner. It could be 1,000, it could be across the street, but still be 1,000 feet.
Correct.
So I guess this question is to Chief. If we're going to adopt 100 feet on alcohol, do you have any concerns of just having the same thing for marijuana as well, that a way they match?
From a public safety standpoint or enforcement, specifically, what are you asking?
I guess from enforcement. Or just any concerns whatsoever.
No.
Perfect, thank you.
In a few words.
You don't have a,
Yeah, I love the detailed response, that was great.
remember the school board or the ministerial alliance too.
Yeah.
Answer that question correctly. Any other questions for Nick?
If that's something you want to do on the separation requirement, I have a blank amendment document that can be filled in to do that change this evening, if that's something the council wants to consider.
I was getting ready to ask that.
Yeah, I personally don't see why, to leave it at 1,000 feet, because it's, I mean, you're getting pretty close to zoning it out of Nixa at 1,000 feet. That's just my opinion, how you guys feel.
I
but-
agree with that.
And if we were to reduce it, there aren't any current facilities that would be compromised by,
No, so the changes adopted by
Well,
the
I guess they would
Constitution
become
and by our
closer.
ordinance wouldn't apply retroactively to those that are currently engaged in the activity.
They're not close to
Right.
anything of that. There's not even a church over there.
because it wouldn't, yeah, it'd actually be opposite of what,
Yep.
yep, yeah.
All right, start filling out your form.
Okay.
And
Well, I need a
just
number.
leave the number blank.
Well,
and then,
that's how it's drafted. I just need a number.
yeah, and then we will come back to that after the public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Nate. We will open up the public hearing. If anyone would like to speak to this item, they can do so at this time.
Mayor, council. My name is Blake Swindle. I'm the owner and operator of Swin Dispensaries. I currently have a lease written in Village Marketplace here in Nixa. That's right off Highway 13, Popeyes, the El Charro and everything right there. I've had a lease written since October of 22, the month before we voted in rec by the state. I intend on continuing my cannabis sales. I currently do retail sales of hemp-defined cannabis in my locations. I will be wanting to expand, obviously, just add more licensing, more legality, local Missouri products, marijuana-defined products in these facilities. Currently, I use you guys' current laws with medical marijuana. I believe the church behind us, that mall, is 250 feet, was the law. It is, or excuse me, 500 feet. It's 250, and it was further than that, and it fell in the zoning requirement, the distance requirement, it all fell along your guys' current, at the time, marijuana zoning laws. I'm here to hope that we keep a similar distancing, obviously not 1,000 feet. If that would be adopted, my business location there would be done in the future. I would not be able to participate in further marijuana sales with the state, gain a license. Again, I've signed the lease. We are currently in process of doing the construction. It's been sent to your office to get approvals and things going to the construction to get that open for, again, our hemp sales. But then in the future, we would be adding marijuana-defined sales in this facility and then get to standards with those. I am asking that we consider what you all have been proposing, not adopting the 1,000-foot rule, because with myself, my employees, all their hard work in this location, we've been able to gain profits to get this location in your city. I currently now live in the city of Nixa. I would be liking to live here with my children going to the school and have another business in this location as I do in other cities around the area. So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we'll leave open the public hearing.
Good evening. My name is Dana Sullinger, and I am co-owner of Mojo Dispensary, and that is currently the only state-sanctioned dispensary in Nixa. I want to thank you for taking this up tonight. We'd really like to see the recreational part of it move forward. There's so many people that I can help that I can't help now, that because of the time that it takes to get your medical card, people just don't have the money to get it. A lot of reasons why we'd really like to see this move forward. I can't wait to help these people. As far as the distances, it's my understanding that since our dispensary is currently already operating, we're going to be grandfathered in. It is hard. like the previous gentleman said, it is really hard to find a location when you are at the 1,000 feet. However, if, you know, your concern is the daycares, the children, the schools, the churches, we don't have any reason not to be okay with the 1,000 feet. It will probably prohibit new dispensaries from coming into the area. But, you know, right now, I think our biggest concern is just being able to help the community, bring these tax dollars back to Nixa, trying to find ways to help people that I could not help in my traditional pharmacy practice. I spent many years, well, I'm in 38 years as a pharmacist, registered pharmacist, and I left Walmart to do this because I got so tired of people coming up to me and saying, this isn't working for me, these pain meds aren't working for me, my son is at home on the couch with Crohn's disease, what else can I do? And I knew the answer, but I couldn't do anything about it. So I'm hoping that tonight you guys are gonna pass this for me and we'll be able to help so many more people. I appreciate your time, thank you.
Thank you very much. And we'll leave open the public hearing.
Hi, my name is Mandy Sneed. I know none of you know me. I am kind of invisible. I've been in Nixa for a really long time. My son has been started in daycare, kindergarten, come all the way up. Very proud of raising my son. I have this shirt on. I know these people. They're amazing people. They're doing amazing work. Not to get super personal, but I am a PTSD survivor from domestic violence and other things that I'd prefer not to talk about in a public forum. But, and I do take pharmaceutical antidepressants, and they help. They're amazing. And I want you to know that I am a medical user, and I have no hat in this race. No matter what, I'm still gonna be able to go where I need to get what I need to be able to function as a mom and as a human. My son's father lost his life on November 3rd of last year. I had him for 163 days from diagnosis. He didn't have a medical card. Does this mean that it's gonna help him? No, but it doesn't mean that it's not gonna help somebody else in town that needs it. Like I said, I have no hat in this race, and the police chief right here just said he has absolutely no problems with it. Like, I'm a mom, I work at a restaurant, I don't have fancy suits, I don't have fancy dresses, I just hang out with my kid and we play Frisbee golf and we have a good time. And I'm really, really proud of living here. I volunteer for soccer days. I try to do what I can for the city when I'm not working. And this is just a really good thing for a lot of people. And it's not as, I did not start using until I was 34, and I'm only 38 now, just now 38. And I made it sure that I was informed. And I made sure that it wasn't just something I did with my friends for fun. My parents did that. And I grew up in a negative environment in Ozark where it wasn't marijuana, it was other things that caused the issues. And now as an adult, and I was able to make those decisions myself, I was able to inform myself that it's not a bad thing. I mean, it's genuinely, I'm not a drinker. I'm not a person who goes out and has a bunch of drinks and stuff. I'm basically just trying to regulate my own emotions and everything, and I just want that for everyone. And honestly, when it comes to the revenue of it, I mean, I have only done my own personal research. I have no, again, I'm not a very smart person, but I want you guys to know that it's gonna help the city. And I mean, it's a small business, and Nixa is all about supporting small businesses. So, I mean, I don't know, that's it. Anyways, thank you.
Thank you very much. And we'll leave open the public hearing. One time. And we will close the public hearing. Oh, sorry, go ahead. We will slightly reopen the public hearing.
Mayor, Council, my name is Tristan Barclift. I had a very bad spinal injury in 2018, and I had a disc that was basically slipped, crushed my spinal cord to within 3 millimeters of being severed. 3/64 of an inch was all that separated me from being paralyzed from the neck down for the rest of my life. Luckily, I had an amazing surgeon at Mercy, Dr. Lee, and he grafted in marrow and cartilage from a cadaver donor, and titanium plate and screws and fused my spine together. And I'm not in danger of paralysis anymore, but I do deal with very bad nerve pain. I suffered nerve root impingement syndrome and atrophied, and over the course of 3 months, 50 pounds of muscle. Went from weighing 195 to weighing 145 pounds. That was over the course of 3 months because of the mixed signals of nerve root impingement syndrome. My left arm was less than half the size of my right arm. It was just a very weird thing I went through. You know, I'm physically on the outside back to normal, but I'm not on the inside. Nerve pain is extreme at times for a lot of different people. For me, I wake up sometimes like it feels like my body is on fire. And cannabis is a miracle from heaven. I believe that. There's a chemical in cannabis called THC. I'm sure you've all heard of it, but how many here have heard of the chemical THCA? Anybody here heard of that? THCA is activated upon fire. So you can only get this chemical from smoking this plant. The THC is what you get from ingesting it. To me, that kind of sounds like it was designed for us to smoke. Just saying. Side issue. There are many different strains, and they all do kind of different things. But one thing they all do well is help people with physical pain. And like someone said earlier, we all can't afford the wait or the amount it takes to get a medical card. And I hope you open up this to everybody so they can seek treatment on their own. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. We'll go one more time. Mr. Sanders.
I heard something a little bit ago. My name's Ron Sanders. I heard something a little bit ago. If you go with a larger distance, that'll limit the number of businesses that can come into the city and everything. And some people might think that that's okay, but then that would kind of like assist in somewhat of a monopoly for the people that are already there. It could possibly, you know, cause the products to be a little bit higher and stuff like that because there wouldn't be as much competition in the area. If you lower that distance, of course, you are opening up the market for a lot more and entrepreneurial people to come in here and open up their businesses and everything. And that would create a competition, and that would, it would lower the prices, you know, for the people that might need it and everything. And that would be a good thing, but that could be a bad thing too, because then you have a whole bunch of people that can afford it that may abuse it. So there's a lot of consideration to go into with these distances that maybe y'all haven't spoken about yet, but I think that's kind of the crux of the matter. If we do lower the distance, not only are you going to open it up for more businesses, but you are opening it up for a lot more use as well, and abuse. Just like having more liquor stores or having more bars. If we had a few more bars, if we had what is it called? Rodeo, whatever it is up in Springfield. If we had one or two of those down here, we definitely would need to pass the tax, and Chief would need at least 10 or 15 more people on duty on Saturday nights and stuff like that. But that's the bottom line when you think about it. The distance is the biggest issue. It's already constitutional. They could open up and they could start selling it, and y'all could, you know, maybe, make a kerfuffle out of it. But technically, they wouldn't be wrong because they're following the Constitution, and we're in violation of the Constitution right now, from what I understand. So the distance is the biggest point. So do y'all want to allow more businesses and lower prices, or do you want to restrict the businesses and, you know, have higher prices and give a monopoly to the few that are already here? I don't know which way y'all want to go. I'm pro-business, so we might have to deal with a little bit of abuse. But I think people here, I've said it 100 times, The people of Nixa are really good people. They're really smart people. And I think the majority of them can handle something like this. So I do hope that y'all think about a lower distance, open up the market for a little bit more. It'll balance out. And I think the smart people of Nixa will be able to control themselves. So we don't have to be the moral police. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders. All right, we'll go one more time for the public hearing, and we will now close the public hearing. Any further discussion?
I think we need to come up with a distance other than 1,000 foot.
I'm sticking with the 100.
And I'm okay with that too. I mean, following what the alcohol does, I'm okay with that as well. I don't know how the rest of the council feels, but I would be okay with doing that.
I was going to say 250 because that's where we're at with the shortest distance currently, but
That'd be good. And actually be shorter than that too, because it's a walking distance and not
legally
just
traveled?
a straight line.
Legally traveled?
Yeah, not it, yeah.
I'd
so
be with 250.
250? 250?
No, I'm still at 100. If it's going to match up, we can set
Okay.
distances all day long for the police department that they have to try to figure it out.
You
and
got me two of those?
You got your tape measures and stuff to make sure that it's.
Think, Travis.
Let's go 200.
Travis has a map, right?
I would defer to Travis.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have two amendments. Amendment number 1 would replace 1,000 feet with 100, and amendment number 2 would replace 1,000 feet with 250 feet.
So make a motion for the 100.
Split the difference and do 200.
Okay. Sure.
I make a motion for 200 feet. To amend it with 200 feet.
He ran out of paper.
You gotta get a third
Nick's
piece
gonna
of
run out
paper
of
out,
paper.
So do you want a third one? Amendment 3, 200? I got 5 of these, so.
Okay, you're in good shape.
200.
200.
Happy to have me back, aren't you, Nick?
Okay.
Are we gonna do this auctioneer style?
So we
or
have,
what?
here 200. So a motion for 200. Do I have a second?
I'll second the 200.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 200 passes. Okay. Any other discussion on the ordinance as amended? Anything else from staff? Supposed to ask staff.
I'll make the motion to approve the ordinance as amended.
I'll second that.
Roll call, please.
Sean Lucas,
Yes.
Jared Giddens,
Yes.
Aaron Peterson,
yes.
Matt Ogden,
Yes.
Seth Balog.
Yes.
Thank you very much. All right.
Second reading Council Bill number 2023-11, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa amending the 2023 annual budget to appropriate funds for outdoor lighting improvements.
I'm short. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As Becca said, this is a budget amendment to appropriate funds for outdoor lighting improvements. If you'll remember, back in July of 2022, the city went into a contract with Lens Electric for City Hall outdoor lighting improvements. These were to replace the lights on the south side with LED color changing outdoor lights and installation of additional lights for security purposes. Due to supply chain issues, the project was not started until December. We were hoping to have it finished in the fall, and that did not happen. So unfortunately, we were not able to pay for the project in December because it was not completed. And we are still having some issues with our control panels. And so at this point, what we need to do is, this is a budget amendment to allocate the funds for the project in the 2023 budget and make final payment once the project is completed. Staff recommends approval, and if you have any questions, I'm available.
Any questions?
Does this take care of all of the dark areas that were out there before, whenever the vandalism and all that happened?
It takes care of some of them, most of them. What they did is they replaced the lights with brighter LED lights, and we've added a few extra ones. I've already talked with Lynn about getting a quote on our west side. To me, there's still a dark area on the west side that was not part of this project. But I think we'll have enough. This budget amendment's for $7,100. I think our final payment's going to be about $6,900. So I think there'll be a little bit of funds left to add additional lights later on, or even light bulbs. We've changed out some light bulbs, trying to get them brighter. But it did help a lot. The lights that he's added, it has brightened up the front for sure.
Yeah, definitely. You may not know the answer to this. If not, you can tell me later. But the new ones that have put in, does it give us the ability to just keep daisy chaining to them, or to add more on the west side? Or we're going to have
We're going to have to add more.
Okay.
So.
It doesn't require additional control panels
Yeah,
or
was it a
anything.
different control box or?
Right now, the white lights that they added on the front are, it's a dusk to dawn, basically. He's got it on a timer type thing. The ones that are color changing on the front, they have a control panel here in the lobby, and that's what they're having trouble with. We've got a rep coming tomorrow night with some new software because the colors aren't correct. So
weird.
It's a different, instead of white, they're kind of a lavender. So it's not what we were looking for.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Questions? Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
And we will open the public hearing on this item. And we'll close the public hearing. Any further questions or discussion? Motion to approve.
So made. Second.
Roll call, please.
Jared Giddens?
Yes.
Aaron Peterson?
Yes.
Matt Ogden?
Yes.
Seth Baylog?
Yes.
Sean Lucas?
Yes.
Second reading Council Bill number 2023-12, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa amending Chapter 4 of the Nixa City Code to update the city's liquor control codes.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. I'm before you this evening to answer any questions you might have about Council Bill 2023-12. As the title indicates, this would amend the city's current liquor codes. Council had first reading and a public hearing on this at the February 27th, 2023 meeting. And the kind of nutshell summary of what the proposed changes are attempting to do is update our very outdated liquor code requirements and categories to embrace some changes that have been made to the state liquor control laws for a few years now. So we're just trying to bring it up to date, have some more categories of licenses that the state has authorized, and clean up some of the code. I'm happy to answer, staff recommends approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions the council may have on this.
Any questions? Anybody want to amend it to 250 or 200?
I've got more forms.
Less liquor
Still
stores.
160.
165. Okay. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, sir.
All right, we will open up the public hearing. If you'd like to speak to this item. And close the public hearing. Any other questions and or discussion topics?
Will this change any of the liquor licenses that are currently in place in restaurants, or could it possibly make theirs cheaper, or?
It will change because we're adding more categories. And so how it'll work is, so when you apply for a liquor license, you get a license for the year. And so those who have current licenses will continue to operate under their existing license. When it comes time to renewal, though, we'll be able to fit them into a more appropriate category for what they're actually utilizing.
Are we going to do anything that would maybe a little more proactive to reach out to a lot of them now?
Yes.
Instead of waiting until they contact us?
Yes, so in September, we will be sending a letter out requesting a copy of their state's liquor license, so we know which category to put the businesses in based on our code.
Okay.
And then we'll send out the renewal letters or renewal emails based on the information we get back from the business. And if we don't hear back, we'll make a best guess based on what we know the business is.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions? I'll accept a motion to approve.
So made.
Second.
And roll call, please.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Matt Ogden,
Yes.
Seth Baylog,
Yes.
Sean Lucas.
Yes.
Jared Giddens.
Yes.
Second reading Council Bill number 2023-13, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa amending the 2023 annual budget to appropriate funds for the city's portion of the Regional Broadband Initiative feasibility study.
I'm here tonight to just request budget amendments, I think. As Becca said, this is a budget amendment for Nix's cost share agreement for the RBI feasibility study. Last year, council approved agreement to participate in the Regional Broadband Initiative. You also approved a cost share agreement to participate in the feasibility study, and you approved a budget amendment for $31,000 of ARPA funds to cover the city's portion. We had anticipated that those funds would be paid before the end of the year, but due to the lateness of the contract, the funds did not get expended, and they were not rolled over into the 2023 budget. Since they executed the original contract, the group that came back that was doing the feasibility study provided anticipated travel expenses to the RBI board and requested an addendum to the contract to include those expenses. All the other parties agreed to these expenditures, and the city's portion has changed. So the total cost share would be $33,650.53. So we are requesting a budget amendment this evening for that amount, the $33,650.53. Staff recommends approval, and if you have any questions, I will attempt to answer those.
Any questions?
This is our ARPA funds too.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
And we will open up the public hearing. Close the public hearing. Any other questions? Nope. Accept a motion to approve.
So made. Second.
Roll call, please.
Matt Ogden,
Yes.
Seth Baylog,
Yes.
Sean Lucas.
Yes.
Jared Giddens.
Yes.
Aaron Peterson.
Yes.
And on to the resolutions.
Resolution number 2023-11, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa amending the Police Department's Law Enforcement Policy Manual.
Mayor, Council, so we use a company called Lexipol to maintain our policy manual, and on an ongoing and continual basis, they will review and recommend updates to our policy manual throughout the course of the year. And then rather than bringing those to you in small individual little chunks, what we do is we do like a once a year update and update all of our policies and attach procedures as well. Most of the changes are a result of things that are very minor, such as grammatical changes or things of that nature. Some of them are reflected in state statute change or federal law, and then sometimes, there'll be changes as a result of, litigation around the country resulting in a change in best practices. And so those are reflected in the attached document that you received. And what you can see is the red stricken language would be out and the blue language would be inserted in those all those policies. Additionally, throughout the year, on occasion, I will issue a general order which could potentially be a deviation or a change to a policy so that we can address a topic quickly and efficiently. And then if that change or deviation needs to be adopted, I would bring it forth at this time and incorporate it into the policy manual. An example of that recently was the change that we did to the uniforms and equipment policy. I allowed the use of baseball caps with certain uniforms that the officers wear. That was a result of, one, a request by the staff, and two, to assist them in having another type of headwear during inclement weather. And it seemed appropriate, and so after consideration, we're going to go ahead and incorporate that into policy. So that's just an example of a general order that would be incorporated. Of course, all these changes have been reviewed by Nick Woodman, the city attorney, and he has approved those. And then, of course, police department staff recommends approval of these changes as well. Any questions?
Any questions? No? All right, thanks, Chief. And we will open up the public hearing on this item. And we will close the public hearing. Any other questions or discussion? I'll accept a motion to approve.
So made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that's all we have on our agenda for this evening. Anything else from staff?
Informational
The
items.
informational item.
That is just informational items.
You know, I mean,
They don't even discuss them. If you want to discuss them, you can, because now I'm going to say anything else from council. If you have a question about the informational item, that would be the time you would stick that in there.
I asked her about it beforehand, so.
Anything else from council?
So we're going to talk about the, what we were just talking about, Irish Hills?
Yes, there is some concerns over in Irish Hills now that it has been opened up into 14 Park Place. That it is a lot of speeding on Kilkenny, because people are cutting through there to bypass school traffic and such. So I think we would like to, once Public Works people are around, we'd
I've
like to.
actually texted Jeff Russell this evening and asked to speak with him tomorrow about looking at putting out the traffic information, the little flashing
radar thing.
radar thing, and then maybe look at some potential or possible solutions to their issues. But I've already talked to him, and I got the thumbs up.
There
So
we
he
go.
plans on talking to me tomorrow.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Anything else? We didn't do a proclamation for International Women's Day, but I would like to thank all of our female staff members for all that they do for us, and let them know that we appreciate them very much. Nothing else? I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.